Welcome to the V2V podcast. This is part of our Survivor series, and today we're talking with Colonel Surratt about his experiences involved in the troubled teen industry. I need to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. I just want to let everyone know that this happens to be the 4-month anniversary of our show. We are very thankful for the support from our listeners. We're growing, which is exciting. And also, I haven't done this before, but I think it's important, is that because we're getting more and more listeners, I'd like to remind people to be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel to be able to stay up on all the current content. We do other things as well as this series. We do some fun stuff. Of course, we have the famous Charlie Sheen update that we do every week, and Arnold Schwarzenegger pops in every once in a while to give us some updates on new films that he's doing. And there's music, there's a lot of different varied content, but today we're back to discussing the troubled teen industry, and I'd like to introduce my guest, survivor, Colonel Surratt. Welcome.
Hi. Yeah. Thanks for. First off, I want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my story on this kind of platform. I think what you're doing is really amazing. Because a lot of people don't know about these programs. I know there's been some documentaries before on BBC and stuff like that, but it just seems like the notoriety of them has kind of died down, and I think it's important because to my understanding, there still are programs that exist, like Tranquility Bay.
There are many. Yeah, it's still very much ongoing thing. One gets shut down, another one pops up. Yeah,
right.
Sure. And the reason we're doing this, and thanks for the compliment. The reason we're doing this is because we think it's effective to have these one-on-one, individualized stories where people can explain exactly what they personally went through, and then when you look at all of them together, you really get a good idea from people all over the country that points to a very particular thing, that there's similarity after similarity in what people have gone through as young people, and I haven't yet heard anything that different, and I think that's important because even though they're governed from state to state, each state controls how their particular programs run. It's not a national thing. But even so, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of difference, and what we're hearing isn't necessarily positive. We're always trying to keep an open mind about this stuff and not try to project what we want to hear. But like I said, what we are hearing is, it's really a negative picture. And I imagine that, you're going to be sharing some interesting things with our audience about what you personally went through for 3 years, 3 different programs.
So I went to 3 different programs, totaling I'd say about 16 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I know for a fact it would have been longer. My parents were pretty committed to me not coming home till I graduated. So I was going to stay at Tranquility Bay till I was 18 if it hadn't got shut down while I was there.
All right. Let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
And because I want to know kind of what life was like for you before. We want, because as I told you before we started the broadcast, that we're not saying that young people don't have real emotional, mental health problems, drug problems. Like I think we as a people in general understand that kids are impulsive. They don't listen. They're kids. There's, in fact, you can go back 6,000 years, and in Egyptian hieroglyphs written on the cave walls, there's a message that says, the kids these days aren't listening to their parents. From way back, way back. So in that sense, nothing has really changed. But the question is what was life like for you, and then what happened next? So how were things for you growing up?
Growing up, I came from, I guess what you would call, middle class, family, upper middle class. I had everything that I needed growing up. I had two sisters, an older sister, a younger sister, and both my parents, they were loving. They took care of us. They ended up having their own issues, and ended up divorcing actually while I was in Jamaica.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And so, I feel like for a lot of kids that go to these programs, it's, a similar story. We have similar stories, I know a lot of people, came from, a decent background because these places are so expensive.
Right.
A lot of kids, had everything that they needed growing up, but, the dynamic of, my parents, fighting, every night, going to bed, listening to them, yelling, it affected me. It added more to what I was going through, but other than that, I had a good childhood. I grew up in a small town in Julian, right outside of San Diego.
Okay.
But as I told you before we started the podcast, I was suicidal and depressed at a very early age. I would say back to 9, 10, 11, 12. Actually, to this day, my parents still don't know this. So if they end up listening to this podcast, they'll end up finding out, I guess. But it's just, it's always a hard thing for me to talk about. So, so I tried committing suicide twice, when I was 11 and then when I was 13. And, I didn't know what these feelings were. I didn't know that I was depressed. I didn't know that I had anxiety. I didn't know that, other people felt the way that I did. But I did know that.
Right, because you didn't have really anyone to talk to about that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, at a young of an age, I'm sure it was difficult to even express how you were feeling, like in general. So young, sure.
Yeah. And to add a note to that, my dad, he worked a lot, so, he wasn't always the easiest person to talk to.
Right.
So, when it came to that aspect, I didn't know how to tell my parents that that I was feeling that way, that I had tried committing suicide.
Right.
So I ended up, acting out, because of it. I validated myself through, being the class clown, getting in trouble, making people laugh, and, I was doing it to cover up these feelings. And then, when I found, I smoked marijuana for my first time, it was just like, the greatest thing in the world to me. You
found the cure. Sure. Right. Yeah. Exactly. No, I get it. Right.
I no longer feel, bad when I'm high,
Yeah.
So
right.
I really ran with it when I started smoking weed. And so in junior high, I started smoking pot 7th grade. Grades started to decline, skipping class, getting in trouble with the law, drinking, and one thing I definitely, like you said earlier, I want to point out that, for a long time, I played, kind of the victim role, but, I want people to know that, you have to take 100% accountability for the things that you do. Granted, I was a kid. I didn't know any better,
Sure.
But, when I got sent away, I left my parents, no choice. They didn't know what to do, and these programs, they made it seem like it was, you're going to be on the beach and, there's music programs and, we take everybody out on, excursions in the mountains and waterfalls and, and it was a lie,
So sorry to interrupt, but how did they, so you were having problems, obviously, and your parents it sounded like they were kind of at a loss as to what to do. How did they find, or how did the programs find them? Like, do you know?
They had heard about it from a school counselor.
Okay, interesting.
That's who initially told them about the WASP program.
Was this a public school or a private school?
Yeah, it was actually at my it was junior high, and it was because my mom had worked for she worked for the school district.
Oh,
and
okay.
So that was always interesting when I was in detention or
right. Right, I had the same experience, by the way. Yeah.
And she's walking through and and I'm sitting there, but so that's how
So it was a public school.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And where this person learned it, I have no clue. I had no idea that those things existed, at that time. But that's where the seed was planted.
It's really fascinating that someone in the public school system referred this program to your parents. That's really interesting. And that's probably a topic for an in-depth other conversation, to be honest with you, to find out what that path is. But so we'll just leave it there, but I want to definitely stick a pin in that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't aware. I mean, this is something I had not heard yet, that public school employees are, at least in your case, were used as some kind of referral service to places like Tranquility Bay. So, all right. So to get the pitch.
My mom worked at the school, it just so happened to work out that way. But yeah, trust me, I spent a lot of time thinking about,
I bet,
if that never would have been told to my mom, what my life would have been like,
Well, it would have been different. I mean, certainly different.
Everything happens for a reason.
Sure. So they were given the glossy sales pitch, of course, and they were sold on it. They said, okay, we're going to send our son to this wonderful place.
Right.
Right, I guess, right. And there you go. You're off to Tranquility Bay, Jamaica.
So Tranquility Bay was the second program I went to. The first
okay.
Was in the States. It was called Cross Creek. It was in Lubrican, Utah. So my parents had two guys come and get me, and it wasn't in the middle of the night. It was during the day. I had ran away, and my parents found me walking around town, and Julian's a small town, so it wasn't hard to find me. And then I went up to them and started talking to them, and then I didn't know there were two guys with them, so they came around the corner, handcuffed me. And at this point, I'm very confused, right? I'm like, okay, what did I do? Am I going to jail? What is this?
Right.
And they had already had all my stuff packed, and it was a split second thing, man. I barely got to say goodbye. They said we're sending you to Utah. And, that's it, so, and then I got put in the car and drove off, so my head's spinning, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know who these guys are,
Right.
My parents didn't know who they were, they don't, after, learning after, I came home and stuff, like I learned that a lot of these guys that were hired to escort kids, they had no training. They had, they weren't licensed, any kind of like security, they weren't licensed or trained to handle any of those situations,
Right. Coming up on a pretty soon future show, I'm going to be talking to a transport owner who did it for a year, and I guess he did it for a year and then had a big change of heart because of the things that he did and saw. So that should be really interesting to get that perspective too.
That's pretty cool.
So these guys they just drive you away and take you to a school in Utah, like a therapeutic boarding school.
So when I get to Utah, it's the building is a 2-story building, bars over all the windows. So they have someone show you around, kind of like a buddy, that gives you the, I guess the rundown on what, life's going to be like there.
Right.
And, so I find out really quickly that the place is really strict, it's very strict. And they make you, learn about these seminars. So the whole program is based on points and levels and going to these seminars, graduating these seminars, and then getting to level 6, I believe. And that's when, magically you are, declared okay to return home. And I think, if you do everything perfect and don't ever get in trouble, I think it takes maybe about a year to graduate. So the learning, like these seminars,
talk about that.
I did. Yeah. So the seminars, they're called PC1, PC2, PC3, and then I forget the name for the other ones. I think you have to do like 4 total. And it's a very humiliating, process. So they're the
go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
No, my mind is like going to all these like places. So explain a little bit about. No, I know. The question I had is that is this like the peer-to-peer stuff?
It's a you could say so. It's actually you're in this huge room and there's a lot of people there. Maybe I would say maybe about 60 people, 70 people, and it's a 2-day intense, maybe 3-day intense seminar. You wake up early, seminar all day, so like 10:30 at night, and what they do is they break you down. That's the whole purpose. These entire programs. That's the purpose, is to break you down and I guess build you back up from there. In my personal opinion, just from going through that, that's not the key to to solving behavior issues.
Right. Is this about like the stuff that concerns like belittling you or yelling at you and that kind of thing?
Yes.
Like
exactly.
like pointing out all your flaws?
Right. In front of like a group of 60 people. Yes, correct.
Gotcha. And then if you don't participate in in yelling at the target or whoever's like kind of on the chopping block, so to speak, if you're not enthusiastic enough, then it could be you next, kind of a deal, or.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If some people can't cry, some kids aren't, emotional. But if they don't see you crying in that seminar, you'll be asked to leave, and that sets you back another couple months of, if you're trying to really graduate. And so, yeah, the whole process is very nerve-wracking. And you
I can imagine.
Yeah, and you the whole time you're praying that you don't get picked out, of the group, and because like you said, they belittle you. So once you get picked out, you're made to share your most deepest, darkest, secrets, in front of all these strangers that you don't know. And and the instructor, the seminar, instructor, they belittle you. They make you feel very, very small, and to get this information out of you, and in doing so, I guess they believe that this will help you get over it.
Right. Now, the people that are doing this, are they brought in, or are they on-site staff, or is it like a third party that comes in to run the seminars?
So I believe it's a third party, and this is what they do. This is like they go around the world doing these seminars.
Like educational consultants, right? Isn't that what they're called? Right. Okay.
Yeah. Something like that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's, to my understanding, that's their job, is to do these seminars. So they're good at it. So like in my case, the instructor, I got picked out, of course, my worst nightmare. I get picked out in one of these seminars in front of all these people, and the instructors, said, I feel that you have a tough exterior. You're not, you're trying to play a tough guy act. You're not opening up, getting out of your comfort zone. So in order to get through the seminar, I'm willing to do whatever because I want to go home, right?
Right. That's the carrot they hang over. That's the carrot they hang over your head. Is if you do what we want you to do, you'll get home that much quicker. Gotcha.
Exactly. So I was made to wear a pink tutu in front of all these strangers, and I had to dance around for probably 10 minutes around the entire room. And to this day, I want to be clear
that people get that. Hold on. So you were made to wear a pink tutu, and dance around in front of all these people as some kind of therapy. I mean, it's mind-blowing, like how that can be considered anything positive, like belittling somebody like that. And how old were you?
I was 13 years old at the time. I get emotional when I talk about it.
Sure. No, you were 13 at the time. Right. It's totally understandable that would bring back all kinds of, horrible memories. And I'm sure that a lot of people can absolutely, and I know for certain that a lot of people can absolutely relate to this. It's really important to this kind of stuff is like maybe the most important thing that people should know about places like this. So this is the kind of thing that really happens. It's straight up abuse. There's no other word for it.
All forms of physical, mental abuse.
Right. So as you go through this, and you are leveling up, getting closer to getting out of this place. So what happens next?
Well, in my case, I knew that this program was something that I wasn't going to be able to graduate and get through. I couldn't, because a lot of it, you're made to call out your peers and break them down. So you have these group sessions and daily with your group counselor, and you're literally made to point out mistakes that your peers made during the day, or the flaws, or what they did wrong.
Right, or you're going to get bumped back down. Correct?
Yeah,
exactly. Like if you don't. Gotcha. Yeah. So you go through this horrible process, then you're put in a position of power where you're forced to then do everything that was done to you back to these other newer kids or lower level kids,
right,
in order to further progress on yourself. Because if you don't, you're going to be back in the beginner's pool suffering through all of that all over again.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfect. So just, I mean, imagine it this way. So you get to a certain level, and in order to graduate and get home, it is a guaranteed thing you have to do. You have to go to, your counselor or to staff and tell on people, oh, this person, did this, or in your group sessions, call people out on things that they did, that would earn them a category. So like that's
Right.
a slip of paper that, if you cuss, it's a category 2, right? It's a write-up. And then, you get a certain amount of points deducted. And then so you're purposely making other kids stay there longer in order to get yourself out of there.
Wow.
How is that, how is that building character,
Right. How is that? How is that in any way positive? Sure. Is this the kind of place where the adult staff kind of hung back, and it was more run by the kids themselves in a lot of ways? Like you were the eyes and ears of each other?
Yeah. I mean, this particular program, Cross Creek, it was pretty much like that. We had one staff member that followed, that was with us all day, took us to lunch, dinner, escorted us back and forth. But
right.
yeah, I mean, we were meant to pretty much
you were police yourselves, right?
Yes,
right. You were meant to police yourselves in order to further progress through the program. Like it was required that you do that.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is something I knew that I couldn't do, and and so I started to not do the program.
Right.
And my parents had written me letters saying that if you don't graduate, you will. Actually, this wasn't till Jamaica, so I'm getting ahead of myself. So I was at Cross Creek for 4 months. So basically, after the first couple weeks, I knew I wasn't going to be able to I didn't want to follow the program. I didn't want to do it. So I started getting in trouble. You get a certain amount of write-ups, and you go to level 0. And this is another thing to humiliate you, to break you down. You're made to wear all orange, right? So everyone else has a normal uniform, but you're made to wear all orange, and you're not allowed to talk to anybody the whole day. So you follow, you go to class, you go to lunch, you walk in line with your group, but you can't talk to anybody the entire time that you're on level 0.
Right.
And then, to top it off, you have to spend a lot of time in, worksheet tapes. So you have to listen to worksheet tapes, like storybooks, and you have to, after this is done, you, fill out a test, and you get a certain amount of points taken off for each, correct test, and that gets you out of the room. So you rack up enough write-ups. I spent months in that room. And you don't get to go to school when you're level 0, like in trouble like that. So
that's another thing. That's another thing we should pause on. Okay, if you can. Now, the idea is, of course, that as you're doing this program, you as a child, 13, 14, 15-year-old child, you should be in school as well, like following some basic curriculum. So if you don't follow a portion of the program and get to level 0, you're not allowed to go to school anymore.
Correct. Yeah. So
that's not right.
I agree.
That's something that should be known. That's
what they tell your parents on too. I mean, that's what they tell your parents on, that it's work at your own pace. Your child has the opportunity to to catch up in school, because I'm sure myself, and a lot of other kids weren't going to school or, were behind 4 grades. So,
Sure.
of course, parents are like, yeah, man, that's amazing. My kid can get caught up, and graduate, in 2 years or whatever, or,
Right.
do 2 grades in a year.
But that just isn't true.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
Like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Whoa. Every time I do this, like, even though I've heard these things before, it still, like, catches me off guard, and I have to take a breath because, like we said, this is, still very common, and it's not anything that really is on the radar of most people.
Right.
They don't know. Like, normies, don't know. They just don't have any clue or any way to realize that this is what really happens at these places. So
yeah.
I just want to, like, reinforce how grateful I am to you and to the other people who we've spoken to, who are willing to share this stuff, because it's not easy. I mean, I have my own traumatic background, and I think at some point I will tell my own story. But I can definitely relate in a lot of ways to being like an aimless youth and looking for parental guidance, not finding it, and then finding the wrong path. When it's a situation that's sanctioned, like, it's not a quote unquote cult. It's not something that's in the public eye is necessarily a bad thing. It's not it's not Scientology. It's not some weird church group. It's represented as like a therapeutic boarding school or wilderness camp or boot camp or things that are often put into the public because these places have a lot of money and they have a lot of marketing resources, so they can push this stuff out there in very glossy and shiny terms that hide the truth. So
to your parents, it seems like it's a godsend place. That's how they make it seem like.
Right. So you're all right. So you're at level 0. You're not in school. You're in isolation, doing these workbooks, and so what happens? Like you eventually leave.
Yeah. So I reached a breaking point. And I made it up in my mind that I had to escape. I had to get out of there. I was on level 0. I hadn't spoken to anyone, in the presence of the staff in months.
Wow.
Of course, like when, like, you're in your rooms, in your bunks, like, I'd talk to people, but throughout the day I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody, for months. And I was constantly in worksheet tapes to the point where I could recite every worksheet tape, word for word by heart, didn't even have to, listen to it to get all the answers right,
Yeah.
And
so they're the same thing over and over again too.
Yeah, I was in my head. I was going crazy, and I was willing to do anything it took to escape.
Okay.
So I got a couple guys together that were also level 0 and wanted to get out of there, and we had planned to attack one of the guards.
Oh wow.
Take a key card, and escape. Now, granted, I'm 13 years old. This is like the kind of stuff that this place pushed me, to even think of. You know? That's how bad I wanted to, to get out of there.
Sure. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Absolutely.
Right. And that, normally that's, that wouldn't have been me. I'm a 13-year-old kid, skinny, I had no business, picking a fight with my shadow. But I wanted so bad that I was, going to attack a grown man and take a key card and run I'm in the middle of nowhere in the mountains in Utah. You know.
So did you escape by yourself?
So what happened was, I'm assuming someone told that we had this planned, and so I got kicked out, or they told my parents they could either take me home or send me to Jamaica.
Okay.
And my parents decided to take me home.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and looking back now, you know, I'd heard stories about Jamaica, how bad it was, you know, just from
Right.
being in Cross Creek.
Okay.
So now I was able to go home, you know, and, you know, I used to think about it all the time. You know, I had an opportunity just to, you know, get my shit together and, you know, avoid Jamaica. But like I said before, mentally I was a sick kid, you know, and I wasn't speaking out about the fact that I was, you know, suffering from depression, you know, and I was suicidal. And so I didn't get the help I needed.
So when you got home, would you consider that your behavior was worse even? I mean,
definitely.
Did it affect you like that? Or I mean, were you more rebellious? Were you more
I would say I was
non-compliant?
Rebellious because my attitude towards my parents, you know, was, you know, how could you send me, you know, away, let two strangers, you know, handcuff me and escort me out to Utah, you know, to a place, you know, that, mentally, you know, I didn't suffer any physical abuse at that program, but, you know, mentally, you know, suffered abuse there. So yeah, I definitely rebelled and, because I want to get to the Jamaica part because I feel like that is the most important.
Yeah, it's just interesting to find out if you know, their perception, which you can't really speak to, but it would occur to me that, I mean, I don't know, as a reasonable person, that, hey, look, we sent our kid here, didn't work out, and now he seems to be not any better. So they make the choice to be on a referral again, I guess, to shoot you off to Jamaica. Okay.
Yeah. So I ended up, long story short, I ended up in juvenile hall, and from there, my parents said, "You're going to Jamaica." And again, I was so afraid of Jamaica, I escaped from juvenile hall.
Wow.
And it was out in San Diego. It was out in the mountains by the border of Mexico. And when I was out there for like a day and a half, I got picked up by Border Patrol. They took me back to juvenile hall, and then from there I was released early. And two guys escorted me right from juvenile hall to Tranquility Bay, Jamaica, or Treasure Cove Beach, or so we went to Vegas. Caught a plane from there to Montego Bay.
Okay.
And instantly it's a complete culture shock, you know.
Right.
It was just so surreal. You know, I'm in a foreign country, you know, and ironically it's Jamaica of all places because I was smoking weed, you know, at the time. And
right.
But at the beginning I knew I was in for trouble because just how I was treated by the staff members that picked me up. You know, all the staff, the Jamaicans there, was all Jamaicans. You know, they viewed us as spoiled, rotten little, you know, kids.
Yeah.
And they treated us as such. And so it was about a 6-hour drive from Montego Bay to Tranquility Bay. And I first get there, and you know, once again, I'm met with just abrasiveness and very you know, just angry staff, you know, you know, kind of like pushing me, you know, like while I'm walking to make me hurry up. You know, I had these big flip-flops that didn't fit me, you know, and so I had a hard time walking, and then, you know, they just pushed me to to make me walk faster, and they led me to the back and where I was made to shower outside, and that's how everyone showered there. You took cold showers outside.
Right.
You washed your clothes by hand in a bucket, and the clothesline was hanging right above a sewer that smelled terrible.
Oh, wow.
Literally right above it, and my parents were spending a lot of money for this place, and I really didn't have any amenities.
Right.
Where was that money going?
Good question. Good, yeah.
I mean, my parents, it's an absurd amount of money, and I'm taking cold showers outside. I'm washing my clothes by hand.
Right.
You don't really get, your parents have to send you supplies. You get maybe like a bar soap from the actual place and a toothbrush, but you don't get, body wash or shampoo. Your parents have to send that to you,
Okay.
So this is a really important part that, I feel like is a lot of kids went through most kids went through at Tranquility Bay, and it's had the most, lasting impact on me. So the second day I was in there, I got into a fist fight with a kid. He was, he was messing with me, wanted to get a rise out of me. And, at this time I'm just so lost, and, I didn't care. it was in class. I just leaped over 3 desks and, punched and started fighting. So they dragged me off to this room called, observation placement. This room's maybe about the size, of a bedroom, small bedroom. It had a bathroom in the corner, tile floor, and like 2 windows on the wall, on the far wall. But other than that, it's blocked off from, the rest of the facility. It's a long hallway, to get there. And, once I was there, I was made to lay on my face. And this part's always hard for me to talk about. So, so there was 4 guards, and they each, so they brought, sorry.
No, it's okay.
So they sprawled me out, spread eagle, and each got on one of my limbs, and at the same time, they all proceeded to put their full body weight, on my ankles, on my elbows, and grind my kneecaps into the tile. And it was just, to this day,
this is the second day.
Pain like that.
Right.
And that lasted maybe about 15 minutes, and then they left me in there by myself, and I was made to lie on my face. I was in there for like 3 weeks.
Wow.
I could only get up to eat and use the restroom. But other than that, I had to lie on my face in this room for 3 weeks. And I've never felt so alone. Abandoned by my family.
Right.
And I couldn't tell them what was going on because they would read your letters. And if they, if you were able to tell your parents, they would tell them that you're just manipulating them to come home. And of course they're going to believe it, because that was the behavior that, I was, I was doing before I left, So I never felt that kind of hopelessness.
Right.
So, I mean, it was at this point that I completely gave up.
Yeah. Well, right. That's kind of the idea, I think, is to use force to gain complete compliance. And, you know, these are the tactics that are used, and they're effective in the sense of getting kids to not obviously not want to have to go through that stuff. I mean, that's a huge threat, you know, and not obviously not just a threat, but it's done, and then who wouldn't comply? Like, that's you know, that's like Guantanamo Bay stuff. You know, that's the kind of stuff that doesn't happen to adults.
Yeah.
That and that's one of the things that I often go back to, is that because I've worked in adult alcohol and drug treatment, and there is absolutely no way ever that anything like that would ever be condoned or tolerated or accepted ever, you know.
Yeah.
But with a child, it's done frequently, and not really because of the letter reading, the restrictions on communication. It's just not well known. It's another one of those things that is so important that people understand, because with that, you know, with that understanding, that can, one, spread knowledge, and because of that, perhaps put a stop to this, and let, you know, let real healing begin for people who've gone through it, and for people who potentially could but don't have to.
Yeah.
You know,
that's one of my biggest goals.
That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this. It's really important, and you said it. I mean, I know how difficult that was for you to explain what you went through at such a young age, and how painful and horrific and lonely that was. But I'm really happy that you had the courage to do that.
Thank you.
I think, I mean, is there, as you went through as you complied and went through the program in Jamaica, I don't want to like rush you through it, but kind of like what was the like basic day-to-day stuff that you went through, like kind of during your stay there?
Well, my stay was a lot different than a lot of people's stay that went there, because I was there when it got shut down by the government.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, my total time there was about 9 months. So, day to day, you know, you wake up, you take a cold shower outside.
Right.
You know, you go to breakfast. You have to listen to, you know, they play these same motivational tapes over and over and over, and you have to take a test at, you know, after each one, you know, to show that you're paying attention.
Right. It's really busy work, but I get it. Yeah.
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 And then, you know, you go to class, you know, then you go to lunch, you know, you get a little bit of free time outside, you know, dinner, and then you have your group sessions where, you know, like Cross Creek, you know, you're made to point out, the flaws in, you know, your peers, you know, and that's the only way to show that, you know, that you're working a program, you know.
Right. And I think it's important for people to understand that even though, like, I know, I talked to a gentleman by the name of Bill Boyles. He went to a Costa Rica program. You went to Jamaica. I know there were programs in Guam. These are all U.S. owned entities. Just to be clear for the audience, that this is not a quote unquote Jamaican program. I mean, that's who the staff were, because they were hired, but these are multinational American-based companies, and that's why the program is similar. Or, that's why the same tactics were used, because it's the same people. Like, and I know you understand that, but I want to make it clear to the audience that even if you're in a foreign country, it's these are U.S.-based programs that we're dealing with.
Program, Worldwide Association Specialty Program. So
right.
All three places I went to were all ran by the same people.
Okay.
JK, I know he was the he ran the Jamaican one. I'm pretty sure he ran other ones.
Right, and Litchfield's still going strong. Those guys.
Right. Yeah. JK, he would always dodge whenever I saw him a couple times there. When the embassy would come by, he would always dodge them to not answer questions. No media was ever allowed inside. And you ask yourself, why would that be? Why? That should have been a red flag, right off the bat. Why are no cameras allowed in this place? Obviously there's something to hide.
Right. So, what happened when it was shut down? Did one day just like people come in and you were told like that's it? Or was it more dramatic?
It was a lot more dramatic. I'll try to tell it quickly, but it was.
No, you've got time. I'm just interested.
I
wanted to get you out of that room. Is what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to get you out of that room and back to, like, because you were there. Like you went back there, and I didn't want you to stay there any longer than you had to.
Yeah.
So
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
No problem. So word spread, things aren't looking good.
Right. So word spread that, that there was a possibility it could get shut down, and the staff would always deny it, right? They're like, no, this place is never getting shut down, don't even listen to it, but, that was the only thing I had to hold on to, man, every day, that was, I just prayed that, the rumors were true, and, little by little, as time went on, it just, somehow word had leaked, that, it was, possible it was going to get shut down.
Okay.
So, all of us kids there, we were completely crazy, like we had basically been living in hell. We didn't care, we didn't care, man. We were willing to do anything to go home. And so we started 2 riots,
okay.
And so things were very dramatic towards the last couple months. Everything's very tense. They had hired a lot more staff members, because so we were basically trying to create, chaos to get this, to solidify this place being shut down, right? Because the embassy,
right, total rebellion, sure,
yeah, and that's when kids really started getting hurt.
Okay.
So anyone that participated in the riot, it was definite observation placement, for, weeks and weeks and weeks. One kid that I knew got his jaw broken. A staff member hit him with a radio, broke his jaw.
Wow.
And of course, they told the parents that, during the chaos, like somehow, he must have, like slipped and fell, did it to himself. They were,
sure.
They completely had nothing to do with it, right? That's what they said.
Right.
At this time, this is when every night I went to bed, it was to the sound of kids screaming, They, and I feel like the guards mentality at the time too was, a lot worse because they knew they were losing their jobs and they completely hated us, and so the guards, honestly, they cared just about as much as we did. They didn't care, so kids were really getting hurt at this time. yeah, I mean, I'll never forget, trying to sleep and, kids were screaming, in observation placement, going through the same, punishment that I had endured, getting sprawled
Yeah.
out and,
Right.
they call it restraining.
Right.
That's their technical term for it. So yeah, one day they, word came down that it was, actually getting shut down. And, like, I'll never forget that day. Some kids got to go home, but the kids that weren't going to go home, that parents wanted, them to stay, we were all shipped off to Mississippi to, a place called Gulf Coast Academy.
Okay.
So this place used to be Bethel Boys Academy before. It was like a military style boot camp.
Okay.
So, I was there for maybe about three months. And as soon as I got there, it was complete chaos because they had opened, this place, quickly, in order to have a place to bring, people from Jamaica. So,
right.
they had hired staff that were like local in the area. A few of them they were active gang members. Like I'll always, remember that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. One guard got fired because he, was bringing in cocaine and giving it to one of the kids.
Oh my God.
And it was at this place that, I had endured, more torture. So the guards would, if you had a problem with somebody, they would take you to the bathroom, right? They would make, you fight. And
really?
then they would make you fight, and the guards would just sit there, and watch it. There was just absolutely no, there's no control over this place in Mississippi. So this one kid was getting picked on, and I stood up for him, and the guy that was picking on him, I was like, don't treat him like that. And some words were exchanged, and he wanted to fight me, so the guards took me to the bathroom. But look, I didn't know that there was 3 people in the bathroom that the guards had asked to go in there, and they watched while these 3 kids jumped me.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
And at
this point you were like what, 14?
14, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'd celebrated my 15th birthday actually.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
And I was just completely hopeless at the time. I thought, Jamaica closing down, I thought that was my shot to go home, and then I got sent to another place which was just as bad.
Right.
I felt like, I just felt totally hopeless. But we started having riots at that place too, and the town, it was a small town that it was in, and the police were always getting called, and the town didn't like that place being there. Kids were running away, and so it was at this time that this place shut down too, and my parents had completely lost faith in the program, in the WASP program. And yeah, they came and picked me up and took me home, and then I'm thrown right back in society after, being in this crazy environment,
Right, here's a weird question for you. Here's a really weird question for you. So when you finally made it back home, all that torture and turmoil and trauma that you went through, did it help you?
I was so,
I've never
been more lost. When I came home, I'd never been more lost. I started drinking alcohol every day just to numb the pain. And one of the worst things about it was that I had no one to talk to about this. I had nobody that could relate to me.
Sure.
You know, so
right, because nobody that you knew went through this, like, or I'm sure would be really difficult for you to begin to even talk to someone who cared.
Right.
Like on your own to even get it out.
Yeah, you know, I would tell my friends, you know, that, you know, I was in Jamaica, this place, and they were like, "Oh, tight, man, you smoke weed," you know, like,
right.
Nobody understood the totality of, you know, what had happened there, you know.
Sure.
And eventually, it felt like a dream, you know, as time went by. But I drank every day to numb the pain, you know. You know, my parents, you know, I told them everything that happened, and, you know, I'm sure they, you know, they felt really bad for sending me there, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But their response was, you know, well, you got yourself sent there, you know, like you didn't have to be that way, you know.
That's an interesting response, considering that the reason that you were supposed to go to these places at all was to help you. So
right.
I think the perspective of looking at a child and sending them to a place like this as some kind of punishment, which is kind of the message that you got by saying you forced yourself to go here, is the wrong way to look at it. I mean, they were correct in the sense that, I mean, them saying that, it makes it clear that they knew that it wasn't necessarily beneficial to you, but rather that, well, you wouldn't have had to go to this horrible place if you were a quote unquote good kid.
Right.
Like, it was, so.
And they didn't understand, you know, the totality of things too, you know, like, you know, it's saying, oh yeah, I had to lay on my face for weeks at a time, you know, like, unless you know, experience it, you just don't you know.
You can't understand it unless you have,
Yeah. And, so yeah, I was completely lost, you know, I was thrown into a new school, and, you know, I hated myself because, you know, throughout these programs, you know, it was ingrained in me that there was something wrong with me. You know, that's what these places told me. I'm not ready to come home until I graduate. You know, I'm a troubled teen. You know, you know, it was just, you know, and with your peers, picking out your flaws on a day-to-day basis. You know, I hated myself when I got home, and
so,
yeah,
sure, that's totally understandable considering what you went through. So, I think, like, to kind of like wrap it up, the fact that you were a troubled teen or a troubled child is clear. Like, you said so. Like, you knew this. Like, you knew that something was wrong. Obviously, sending you to these programs was not helpful. Like, you're aware of that. Your parents saw that.
Yeah,
so,
I know now.
So what can be, what can be done? What's the better solution to a child who's exhibiting these behaviors that you did, depression, all of the stuff that associated with school? Like, what's a better choice?
That's a really difficult question to answer. I wish, like, I knew, I wish there was a perfect answer. The best thing that I can say is, if you're a parent and, you have a teen that's, going through, some difficult stuff, acting out, the best answer is try to relate to them. Try to, let them know that, they can come to you and talk about anything, anything that's going on, because I felt I couldn't do that with my parents. And like I said, I was sick kid mentally. I needed help, but I didn't get the right help. It wasn't getting sent away wasn't, the right treatment for me. It just ingrained even more, the feelings that I had, made them worse. Ask your kids if they're, if they, they have thoughts of hurting themselves, if they feel sad, I think that's very important, to try to level with your kid and just make them feel comfortable with being able to come to you, with issues that they have,
Sure, absolutely. I'm going to go ahead.
No. So that's
well, no. I was going to say that I'm going to put up links to Heal and the Lost Survivors website in the show notes, so that people who are listening to this can have, and who've gone through stuff like this and who aren't ready to talk, can have access if they aren't aware of it.
Yeah,
that there are organizations that, there are thousands of people involved, and they can relate to what you're going through, and that there is communication and help out there. And that's what we're trying to do here is to, because I want to talk to, excuse me, parents too, which is difficult because I know there's a lot of, rightfully so, a lot of shame and guilt that comes along with that, with having, maybe unknowingly sent their kids to these programs, and they are reluctant or afraid to kind of come forward. I'm going to be talking to some I think on Saturday, tomorrow. My partner is going to talk to an ex-staff member.
Yeah.
Who has a change of heart, and discuss from their perspective, what these programs are about. So I think that's right. That communication, understanding, empathy, like knowing, because we were kids, we were children too. Parents, have gone through childhood difficulties of their own, and perhaps they need to remember back to when they were kids and try to relate better to their children. There's an obligation as a parent, that we have to take care of our kids and not shuttle them off to places that we don't understand, who promise the moon and deliver a damaged child back to you. That should not be happening. And this is what we're doing. We're trying to, as taking these small steps, sharing one story at a time, to get the message out, to try to prevent this from happening, because it's still happening right now. And so I want to thank you, Colonel, for talking. I really appreciate it. It was very courageous of you. I'm honored that you chose to do this. You deserve a lot of credit. You seem to have made your way out of the darkness in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's a daily. I have to work on it daily.
Sure, and we spoke about that a little bit off the broadcast. That we're both in similar positions,
right.
And so thank you so much. And I just want to let people know that we're going to keep doing this. And anyway, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my story. It really means a lot.